CELA presents Getting Started with Accessible Reading Canada. Listen to CELA Audiobooks with Alexa.
All right, well, it's been a couple minutes, so I think we're good to get started with the presentation for today. So everyone should be able to see the screen or the slide deck on the left. So thank you everyone for attending the webinar today. Today we'll be talking about Accessible Reading Canada and how you can listen to CELA audiobooks with your Alexa device. So first, before we get started, I'll just go over the agenda for today. So first of all, my name is Nicole Amiro. I'm the project coordinator here at CELA, and I have a co-host here with me. Are you able to unmute and introduce yourself, Awana?
Sure. My name is Ioana Gandraber. I'm a peer trainer with CELA, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Perfect. All right, so for today's webinar, if you happen to have any questions throughout the slide deck, feel free to ask them in the chat or save them until the end. There will be a question period for the end of the webinar. But if you're afraid of missing a question or forgetting your question during the webinar, feel free to write it down and we'll try and get back to you. As for accessibility features today, we do have captions turned on, so you should be able to turn on captions by the show captions icon that says CC on the a bit lower down on the webinar here. If you do experience any technical troubles, or the best thing to do is to leave and come back. Otherwise, there's only so much that we can do on our end, but do let us know if you're having issues and we'll do our best to help you. If you are having any issues and you do miss part of the webinar, we are recording this webinar and it will be available on the CELA webinars page a little bit later, potentially in about a month from now after it's transcribed. But we do have a pre-recorded webinar already there from about a month or two ago, so you could always watch that one if you feel like as though you've missed out on any content. The structure of that one was about the same, or there's about the same amount of content. There are just a few things switched around here and there. In terms of other accessibility features, if you prefer to use the keyboard shortcuts in Zoom to participate in the webinar, you can raise or lower your hand by selecting Alt-Y on a PC or Option-Y on a Mac. That'll raise your hand so that we can see if you have any questions, especially during the question period. If you need to mute or unmute yourself, you can press Alt-A on a PC or Command-Shift-A on a Mac. Or if you're joining us today by phone, on the phone you can press *9 to raise or lower your hand and *6 to mute or unmute yourself. Now, at the end of this webinar, we will have a survey that we would love for you to fill out, so that'll give us the heads up as to how well we're doing with the webinars or if there's anything that we can do to improve. All right, so before getting started into the content, I'd like to start with a land acknowledgement for today. So first, I'm going to address the icon that's on the slide right now. So this image was created to reflect Indigenous traditions, spirituality, inclusion, and diversity. At the center of the design, there is a sun symbolizing the summer solstice, a time of celebration for many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities. And the design represents each Indigenous group with a distinct symbol. So the eagle for First Nations, the narwhal for the Inuit, and the fiddle for Métis. And the different colors symbolize 4 elements of nature: earth, water, fire, and air. So a stream of colorful smoke flows through this design, reminding us of Indigenous spirituality and reflecting the rich diversity of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities. Now, as I am working from Toronto, Ontario today, I will be reading off the land acknowledgement from where I personally work. I live and work in Toronto, the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. This territory is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. This land is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Wherever we find ourselves today, across Turtle Island, we can be grateful to the First Nations for their careful stewardship of the land. Thank you very much for joining in the land acknowledgement with me. So now, if anyone happens to be new to CELA, I'm going to go over what our organization is about. So CELA is a national not-for-profit organization that provides accessible reading services to about 3 million people across Canada with print disabilities. So print disabilities encompass those who are blind or visually impaired, people with comprehension disabilities such as dyslexia, and those with physical disabilities that make it difficult to read a print book. So our services ensure that people with print disabilities across the country are more able to fully participate in learning, in work, community life, and contribute to social, cultural, and economic development and success of their local and broader communities. And our mission is to support public libraries and with accessible library collections and to champion the fundamental right of Canadians with print disabilities to access media and reading materials in the format of their choice, such as Braille, e-text, or audio. So that's a little bit about CELA. So now we're going to jump into talking about Accessible Reading Canada. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the smart speakers that you'll need in order to use the skill. I'll go over an overview of Accessible Reading Canada, talk about how the skill works, how you can get help with the skill, and then cover any questions that you might have at the end of the webinar as well. Now, I'm just going to give a quick warning as well. I'm going to be using what's known as the wake word for these smart speakers throughout this presentation. So the wake word is Alexa, and that kind of turns on the device in order to listen to you and to hear your commands or to hear if you're searching for any information. So what this typically does is it triggers your device at home, since it's the default wake word. Unless you change it, Alexa is the word that will wake up your device. So if you have one of these devices at home, we recommend that you either wear headphones during this presentation so that the device cannot hear you, or you can mute your smart speaker so that it doesn't listen in on any conversations, or you could just unplug your device for the duration of the webinar. So that's the way to mitigate your device from turning on all the time or trying to respond to commands as we're going through this webinar. So this is your last chance or last warning that we want you to mute your device so that it's not going off during the presentation, as we will use the term Alexa quite frequently throughout this webinar. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. So if you haven't heard of them before, we will first cover Alexa smart speakers. So you may have heard of these before or seen these before, but these are speakers that operate with Amazon's voice-controlled assistant called Alexa. These are devices primarily from Amazon that combine a speaker with their virtual assistant, but Amazon smart speakers are usually called Echoes, and there are other kinds of speakers as well that are Alexa-enabled, but not necessarily from Amazon itself. So Amazon or the Alexa can allow users to give voice commands so that it can control music playback. It can manage smart home devices like a thermometer or a thermostat, for example. It can also dim lights, for example. Oh, I'm sorry, I think my Alexa is going off. There we go, let me unplug that. All right, so as I was saying, it can manage smart home devices, you can control music playback, or you can just ask your Alexa for some information as well. For example, Alexa, how is the weather today? Or Alexa, what is 2 plus 2? And it'll give you some information. So most of these speakers range from about $40 to about $100 on the higher end, but that's if you want the bells and whistles. We actually recommend getting what's called the Echo Dots, which are smaller devices that are more inexpensive and easier to use. But you will need some kind of Alexa smart speaker in order to use the Accessible Reading Canada skill. So you will need one of these to get started. Where you can get these, there are many places. So as you might think, you could buy them online at the Amazon Canada website, of course. You can also get them online on a website called Newegg, which also sells some electronics such as Alexa devices. You can also go to electronic retailers such as Best Buy, Canada Computers, or Staples. There are also home improvement retailers that would have this device, such as Canadian Tire, Home Depot, Rona or Lowe's would also have some in stock. And then other retailers may have these devices as well. Walmart would likely have them, and some Shoppers Drug Marts have them as well, or Pharmaprix if you are in Quebec. So you can go to any of these retailers in order to get your Alexa smart speaker. So that's about the smart speaker itself. So let's talk about Accessible Reading Canada and what kind of service this is. So if you haven't heard of them before, the different apps that you can put on a Alexa smart speaker are called skills. So Alexa skills are voice-activated apps that add new functionalities to an Alexa-enabled device. So this is very similar to getting an app onto your phone or using a browser extension, for example, on your computer. So your phone can already do many things, but if you need to do something special or add a new functionality, or if you just want to put a game on it, you can download apps to your phone, and it works the same way where it just expands what your phone can already do. So Alexa skills are the same way. They're just different kinds of apps that are voice activated and they're built specifically for Alexa smart speakers. So Alexa or Accessible Reading Canada is a free Alexa skill that allows CELA users to read audiobooks on their Alexa smart speaker. Now, this service is available in both English and French. However, it's not multilingual. So if you have an Alexa device and you're using multilingual settings, this app will not work. It needs to either be configured in English or French. It cannot be English French or French English or any other language. It needs to either be in only English or only French for the skill to actually work. So that's a bit about Accessible Reading Canada. So now I can tell you a bit about how Accessible Reading Canada works. So here are some things that you'll need if you want to get started. So of course you will need your CELA account. You also need an Amazon.ca account. So it needs to be specifically the Canadian Amazon account. It will not work with the American account. So accounts made from the American website or any other Amazon website outside of Canada. As I mentioned before, you will also need the Alexa smart speaker that is configured in either French or English, not multilingual. And you will need an internet connection. Now, something that I will bring up here is we have a wonderful bunch of resources available on the CELA website itself. So if you need any extra help as you're going through in the setup or if you're going through the app itself, you can navigate to the Accessible Reading Canada help page. There's a shortcut if you go to the homepage of the CELA website and you scroll down to where it says how to read books from CELA. The very first link on there called Accessible Reading Canada for Alexa devices will bring you right to our support page. So on the Accessible Reading Canada help page, we have a lot of different materials such as the user guide and command list. The command list is the list of commands that you can give to Alexa in order to navigate the skill. So we'll go over that in a moment. They also have a lot of video tutorials and audio demos for using the skill. There's also information on loaning Alexa devices at libraries, if there are any librarians here who are interested in loaning out those devices. And we also have an FAQ page and an area where you can find out how to get more help outside of the help page itself as well. So if you're ever confused, you can always go to the Accessible Reading Canada help page. All right, so with that being said, the way this works is to get set up, you will first have to launch or activate the skill. So you can do this through the Alexa app, which would be on a phone or a tablet, or you can do this from the Amazon website itself. And what you need to do is you link your device so that your Amazon account has the CELA skill on it. You link that to your CELA account, and then from there you can use the command list to navigate the skill. And there are detailed instructions on how to do this on the Accessible Reading Canada help page, and you can always call the contact center if you're having additional issues. So if you're wondering how to get books on this Alexa device, thankfully it's pretty straightforward. So when you're trying to add books to your bookshelf, it's the same way that you would add any books to your direct-to-player bookshelf normally. So you would search for a title, or you could go to a recommendations page or a category. Once you find a title, you would choose the Daisy Audio direct-to-player format. The title will appear on your CELA account bookshelf, and then from there you would be able to access it on the Alexa skill. So the direct-to-player bookshelf is directly linked to the Accessible Reading Canada skill, so any titles that are available to be played through the Alexa smart speaker, they will be able to be played, or they would be appearing in your bookshelf through the skill itself as well. So one thing I will note is that you will be able to access any human-narrated audiobooks from CELA. However, it will not be available to play any books from Bookshare or any of the audio magazines. It's also not a text-to-speech reader, so it won't be able to read anything that is only text-based. So that's something to keep in mind as you're deciding what books to read off of your Alexa smart speaker. So In order to navigate the skill, we can take a look at the different options you'll have once you actually launch or activate the skill itself. So there are three main options that we'll go over today. So one is resume books. Two, we have my books, which has the submenu of books in progress and bookshelf. And three, we have browse library, where you can search for titles or look through recommended book lists. So let's start with option number one, resume books. So here, if you go to resume book, this will resume your most recently played book on the Alexa device itself. So this will jump into playback where you can navigate chapters, you can increase or decrease volume, and you can also use your Alexa device as it normally is. So you can still ask it for the weather or what 2 plus 2 is. You can still ask all the other questions during playback as well. Now, one thing to note is that not all audiobooks will be able to navigate chapters. That doesn't have to do with the Alexa smart speaker or with CELA, anything on CELA's end. It has to do with the audio file that CELA receives from publishers and not the skill itself. So some audiobooks are already divided into different chapters and some aren't. So if you aren't able to navigate chapters, that just has to do with the file itself, and it's not an issue with the device or with the skill. So I want to show you a demonstration of what this will sound like once you are actually using the skill. So the commands that we'll go over in this audio demonstration are open or launch. And so this is what you say to activate the skill through the Alexa smart speaker. You'll also hear read and resume. That's what you say if you want Alexa to start a playback of a title. And then stop and or quit. And so either of those commands will stop or exit the playback itself. So let's listen to what that will sound like.
Alexa, start Accessible Reading Canada.
Would you like to resume your most recent book in progress, access your books, or browse the library?
Resume.
Suffering comes to us as an interrogator. It asks, who are you?
Alexa, volume up.
Part 1, The Unimaginable. Chapter 1.
Alexa, stop. Alexa, what's the weather?
There we go. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, I think we just finished the video. There we go. All right, so there we go. So you could hear that with resume book, it'll jump into the book until you say quit or stop. One thing to note here is that once Alexa enters playback, you're technically no longer in the Accessible Reading Canada skill because Alexa's playback feature is a separate function from the other kinds of apps or skills that it holds. So in order to get back into the Accessible Reading Canada skill, you would have to re-enter by saying quit to exit the playback and then say launch or open in order to jump back into the Accessible Reading Canada skill. So that's to resume a book. So that's the first menu item that I mentioned before. Let's continue to my book. So this is the second option in the skill. I can see a hand is raised here. If it's just a question, then we can cover questions near the end. If you're not sure if you'll remember your question, then please type it in the chat. But I'd like to try and cover questions closer to the end of the webinar if possible. So I'll continue here with my books. So in the My Books section, there are two submenu items. So you can say Books in Progress, and that'll give you a list of up to 4 recent books that you started listening to on the skill itself. Or you can say Bookshelf, and this will list all of the books that are on your direct player bookshelf, at least all the ones that you'll be able to listen to on the Accessible Reading Canada skill. So the commands we'll cover here are, you'll hear next and previous to navigate the app. You'll hear first, and that's to go back to the beginning or the first option in a list of options that Alexa might give you in the skill. You'll hear repeat, and that's if you want Alexa to just repeat the same option that she gave you before. And then at any point, you can always say main menu, and that command will jump back to the main menu, so the main 3 options that I mentioned before. So let's listen to what that will sound like.
Alexa, start Accessible Reading Canada.
Would you like to resume your most recent book in progress, access your books, or browse the library?
My books.
Okay. Would you like to access your books in progress or browse your bookshelf?
Books in progress.
In progress. Your most recent book is The River is Waiting by Wally Lamb. Would you like to resume reading or skip to the next book?
Next.
Oh, my apologies. It
The
just paused
Adventure
here.
of Charlie
There we
and
go.
His Wheat Straw Hat, a memoir by Bernice T. Heiser. Reader next book?
First.
You have 4 books in progress. Your most recent book is The River is Waiting by Wally Lamb. Would you like to resume reading or skip to the next book?
Read.
Chapter 1, April 27th, 2017. It's 6 a.m. and I'm the first one up. Spotify's playing that
Alexa,
Chainsmokers.
stop. Alexa, start Accessible Reading Canada.
Would you like to resume your most recent book in progress, access your books, or browse the library?
My books.
Okay. Would you like to access your books in progress or browse your bookshelf?
Bookshelf.
You have 8 books on your bookshelf. First book, Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult. Would you like to start reading or skip to the next book?
Repeat.
You have 8 books on your bookshelf. First book, Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult. Would you like to start reading or skip to the next book?
Main menu.
Would you like to resume your most recent book in progress, access your books, or browse the library?
Stop.
Got it. Goodbye.
There we go. That's the demonstration for the My Books section. And we'll go to the very last option, the Browse Library option. So here you can search for titles by title, author, or title and author, which you'll hear in the demonstration. Or you can go to Recommended Books, and this will give you a short list of staff selected books, so some recommendations from CELA staff. So here you'll hear the commands search, which will search for a book, summary, which will give you the summary of a title. You'll hear the help command, which you can use anytime while you're in the skill. So anywhere except for playback, you'll be able to use the help command, which will give you some contextual help as to where you are in the skill and some options that you have at any given point. And you'll hear go back, which will go back to whatever previous menu you were at before you went to a different section of the Accessible Reading Canada skill. So let's hear how to search for a title or hear some recommended books.
Alexa, start Accessible Reading Canada.
Would you like to resume your most recent book in progress, access your books, or browse the library?
Library.
Okay. Would you like to hear our recommended books or perform a search?
Help.
To hear our book recommendations, say recommendations. To search for a book, say search. To return to the main menu, say main menu.
Search. The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat.
First result, The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat and Other Clinical Tales, by Oliver Sacks. Would you like to hear a summary? Start reading or skip to the next result?
Go back.
Would you like to resume your most recent book in progress, access your books, or browse the library?
Library.
Okay. Would you like to hear our recommended books or perform a search?
Recommendations.
CELA regularly updates its list of recommended books. Would you like to explore it?
Yes.
I have 3 recommended books. First book, The Story of ABBA, Melancholy Undercover, by Jen Gradval. Summary, reader next.
Summary.
Through exclusive interviews and over a decade of deep research, renowned music journalist Jen Gradval explores the secrets to ABBA's success. There has never been a group like ABBA.
Alexa, read.
The Story of ABBA, Melancholy Undercover.
Alexa, stop.
There we go. Already got some sneak peeks for some other titles that we have upcoming, or some recommended books that we already have. All right. So the last thing I want to show you and give you an audio demonstration of is something called stacked commands. So this is our term for commands where you give two commands within one prompt or within one sentence, for example. So this can ask Alexa to perform sequential commands. So an example would be saying, Alexa, launch Accessible Reading Canada and search The Hunger Games. So this would not only activate Alexa and launch into the skill, but this would also immediately go to the search menu and start searching for the title that you asked for. So let's hear a demonstration of how you can use this, and it'll also give you an idea of how you can interrupt Alexa if she's in the middle of a prompt that you already know goes on for a while. You can also interrupt Alexa at any point if she's talking for a little too long. So let's listen to what that sounds like.
Alexa, start Accessible Reading Canada and recent books.
You have 4 books in progress.
Alexa, next.
The Adventure of Charlie and His Wife.
Recommendations.
CELA regularly updates its list of
Alexa,
recommended.
yes.
I have 3 recommended books.
Alexa, next.
The Story of ABBA.
Alexa, summary.
Through exclusive interviews and
Alexa,
over.
previous.
I have 3 recommended books. First book, The River is Waiting.
Alexa,
by
search Middlemarch, George Eliot.
First result, Middlemarch, Penguin English Library.
Alexa, go back.
Would you like to resume your most
Alexa,
recent book?
bookshelf.
You have 3 books on your bookshelf.
Alexa, stop.
There you go. So if you're ever annoyed with Alexa, you can always interrupt her if she's talking for a bit too long. So something else I want to acknowledge before we continue is in these audio demonstrations, we have clipped it or trimmed the audio just a tad, just to show you what it will sound like, and so that the audio didn't take too long when we were showing you the demonstration. In reality, Alexa may take some time between prompts or commands in order to respond to your commands. So just keep in mind that it might take a little bit longer and Alexa might not respond immediately to your command. It might take a bit longer for you to hear a response from Alexa once you're actually using the skill yourself. All right. With that in mind, I know that that was a lot of information in a condensed amount of time, so I'm going to go over a review of Accessible Reading Canada. So first, let's talk about what the skill can do. So it can play human-narrated books from CELA. It can navigate tracks in order using the commands previous or next. It can return to where you were previously reading on the smart speaker. So if you start a title on the Alexa device and then you stop in the middle of a chapter, whether it's at a checkpoint or not, if you return to the book later on, you should be able to pick up where you left off on the Alexa. You can also read book summaries. If you're searching for a book or reading a recommendation or listening to something on your bookshelf, it will be able to read a summary in any of those menu items. And you can also move backwards and forwards, of course, in the menu structure and return to the main menu at any time. So also note that when we're talking about tracks, navigating tracks in order, tracks are not always necessarily a chapter. For example, in cookbooks, there might not be a chapter, but you might be able to navigate different sections of the book itself. Now for what the skill cannot do. So it cannot navigate pages or headings, for example, and in some cases, the audio itself may not have chapters as well. It cannot adjust playback speed since that's the Alexa playback function itself, so that doesn't have anything to do with the Accessible Reading Canada skill. However, you might be able to adjust the Alexa settings if you do want her to read faster or slower. You might be able to toggle with the Alexa settings, but that doesn't have to do with the Accessible Reading Canada skill. As I mentioned previously, it's not able to sync with other reading apps or devices, so if you're listening on a Victor stream, for example, or Envoy Connect, or if you're reading through an app like Thorium or Dolphin Easy Reader, you can't pick up where you left off on one of those devices or apps to the Alexa device. It only syncs with other Alexa devices. So if you connect to a different Alexa device, but you're still connected from your Amazon and CELA account to a different Alexa device, it will sync between Alexa devices, but it cannot sync between other devices or other kinds of apps. Something else to keep in mind is that the search is very basic. There aren't any extra filters, so you can't search by genre, for example. You're only able to search by title, by author, or title and author together. You aren't able to read any kind of e-text. As I mentioned before, it's not a text-to-speech reader, so it cannot read e-text, and nothing from Bookshare or our audio magazine collection. And you aren't able to remove any of your books from your direct-to-player bookshelf through the skill, so that you would still have to remove titles from the CELA website or other means, or if you can contact the contact center if you need extra help with that. You also cannot add books or titles to your direct-to-player bookshelf through the skill as well. However, if you do start reading a book through a search or a recommended title, for example, it will show up in your history. So if you go to your CELA account online and you go to your history tab, it will appear there as though you recently read a book, but it will not actually add it to your direct-to-player bookshelf. So you would still have to do that part manually. So now, if you need to get additional help with your Alexa, with your Alexa smart speaker or with the Accessible Reading Canada skill, there are different ways that you can get some help. So part of this is with Amazon, of course, because they are the device that you're working with. So if you need help with the device, you can contact Amazon support. So they are very good with helping with your initial smart speaker setup. So if you don't already have a smart speaker or you need help setting it up, you can get help with them. Any tech issues outside the skill. So if you're experiencing issues throughout the smart speaker and navigating the smart speaker, whether it's within Accessible Reading Canada or if it's with the entire device itself, they can help you there. And if you have any privacy-related questions, then they're the people to contact as well. And we also have the CELA Contact Center. So if you have general questions about Accessible Reading Canada, you can always give us a call, especially if you have any bug reports for the skill. That's something that we would want to know. So you can always give us a call if you're experiencing issues with the skill itself and it's outside of the Alexa device or the Alexa smart speaker. So in order to contact Amazon, there's a couple options here. So if you go to the Amazon website and you go to your account, so where it says hello blank and it's hello your name, you can click on there and you will see there's different areas that you can go to for some help. There's the digital services and device support. Within that, they have the Amazon Alexa accessibility help, and they also have customer service. So within these tabs, you'll be able to see articles and a community forum, as well as a chat service. You can also call into Amazon, which we have their number available on our Alexa or Accessible Reading Canada help page as well, where you can find some more contact information. And then, of course, if you want to contact CELA, you can always call or email our contact center for one-on-one help. Of course, you can join our training webinars, this would be the one, or you can go to one of our general Q&A webinars, which I'll let you know when the next one is by the end of this webinar. And then, of course, you can always check out our Accessible Reading Canada help page, where you can see the user guide, video tutorials, and more audio demos. All right, and I just have some contact information here for CELA. So you can always visit the CELA website at www.celalibrary.ca. You can give us a call at 1-855-655-2273, or you can send us an email with help@celalibrary.ca.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and never miss a video.